Welcome, everybody, to the State of Service and Mobilizing Your Team. Matthew, Chief Marketing Officer at TradePending. Welcome back to another live session. I'm pleased to have Dan and Jeremy with us here today. Say hello.
Hello, hello.
And well, Jeremy, are you going to say hello or are you just going
Oh,
to?
hello. I wait.
Come on.
I'm sorry. I wasn't paying
Okay.
attention. I
Come on,
already
All
Stevens,
right.
wake
all
up.
the rules.
That-
So
Come on.
can we start all over or we're
all right,
good?
we'll start. No, all right, let's keep moving. All right, here we go.
Do it
Oh, there we
live.
are. That's all right. We'll give you guys a chance to introduce yourselves here in a second. Just want to let people know who they're talking to. I think we've assembled probably the best looking webinar panel for Tuesday, August 20th out there. I don't think anyone can dispute that. If you want to get the recording, we are recording it. We will share that out afterwards. Please do Q&A. If you got questions, you have some awesome resources available here for you today. So use them, abuse them, ask them tough questions. Off we go. All right, a couple other little fun things to share. If you haven't seen it yet, we launched a Facebook Community Dealership Video Academy. It is just for people that sell and service cars to share their best practices and tips and tricks for using video. We'll share the deck out afterwards too.
Cool.
If you haven't seen Trade Pending TV, you should follow us there. We have tons of content there. It's a lot of me if you haven't seen that yet. So hopefully that's okay. But the content's good. I like it. I think you'll like it too. And then lastly, for our customers, we have a wonderful referral program. You're first to a dealer. They sign up, you get a really nice Yeti cooler. Let's get on with the show. We'll come back to that a little bit there. So let me stop my share. All right, Jeremy, Dan, welcome. Thank you for joining us today. Let's do some introductions. We'll start with you, Jeremy, then over to Dan.
All right.
How
Well,
did you end up here?
that's a good question. How did I get here? No, I was born and raised in the state that you are at, town called Fuquay-Varina. Do you know where that's at?
I do. I don't know about Dan.
Dan probably don't know it.
I've
Maybe
heard of it. How's that?
It's a really
I can
weird
spell
name
it.
town. It's weird.
if you can spell it, you're probably That's pretty impressive. Um, I was born and raised there, and I was at that dealership group for the past 20 years. I started as a technician. I was a technician on Friday, and I was a manager at a Chrysler store on Monday, and just kept growing and just seeing how far I could go. And back probably last November, I got connected with Ed Roberts, and we started talking about remote services and the possibilities of that. And I was at a point where I wanted to make a change. It's hard to explain when you feel like you're at that point. I just felt like there was something else different for me, and decided to pack up. Not my whole family, only two of my boys came with us down here. One was already down here, so in December we packed up and moved down to Florida and been at Bozard Ford.
And you have a history, maybe a checkered past in doing mobile service. Can you tell us about that?
Oh yeah, so in that 20-year run, and I was trying to think, it may have been over 15, 18 years ago, I left the dealership and started my own business because I always had that desire of having my own stuff. And 3 months in, my shop catches fire and I lose everything. Um, that was on a Friday. So I came in Monday with not a tool to my name or anything. And a guy helped let me rent a shop for a little bit, and it just didn't work out. So I decided I found an old beat up U-Haul trailer in my busted up Suburban. So I threw a bunch of tools in there and I started mobile service did it for about a year and a half. That was, gosh, I'm trying to think. I had to be around 2009, 2010. So I did that until I ran across the owner of the dealership I was at, and he offered me a manager position. So I came back to the dealership after that. So got a little bit of hands-on in mobile service years ago, and didn't know what it meant back then, but it kind of paved the way for it, now.
Doing mobile service before mobile service.
That's
Right.
right.
Before it was cool.
Dan, how'd you end
Yes.
up here today?
Well, that large appearance fee check that you sent me. You said
That is not a thing. Do not, there's no, I'm just
Jeremy, you didn't get one?
kidding.
No,
What,
no.
you got paid? I had to pay him. I had to be a sponsor.
I'm coming to you from downtown Detroit, the Motor City. Born and raised here. Grew up in a newspaper family and could not do math or science very well, but I could write somewhat decently and could spell. So got into this newspaper business and after college and been doing it off and on ever since. Been at Automotive News here about 5 years and still learning things about service and parts and collision. And that's why I like doing these things. And Jeremy can, teach me some things there on what's going on at dealerships.
Right. And so, Dan, I think from what we hope you bring today. If you don't, we're never inviting you again.
Mm.
This
I'm going to cash the check first, though. It won't matter.
this macro perspective of what you're seeing in the automotive industry and with regard to service. So if you look back at the first half of the year, this is for Dan first, Jeremy, hold your horses, right? What did you see? What did the trends play out like you thought they were going to play out?
Yeah, I think it's been a pretty, I would say, typical, first half of the year for, the fixed operations at dealerships. Uh, I think there's still, this is not across the board, but I still hear of, some shops that are struggling with, appointments and getting folks in right away and getting them out. Um, Partly due to, probably some, a little bit of part shortage still, but mostly due to not enough people turning wrenches to move people in and out. Again, it's not a industry wide thing that I've, because I talked to some other people, so we're doing great. We're, blowing and going. But I still hear, for some that are, I can get you in a couple of weeks kind of thing. So I think that might be one of the, things that I've kind of seen, but otherwise, it's, been kind of a typical, first 6 months that, that again, fixed ops in many ways are, carrying dealerships. New car sales are still struggling, just because of the interest rates and the, sticker prices, and people are keeping their cars longer, and so that's older vehicles on the road, and that means more repairs, more maintenance on them, and so dealerships are doing a pretty good job of, capturing that from a lot of customers.
Jeremy, did the first half of the year play out like you thought it would, or were there things that were different? Well, we can't hear you. Where'd you go?
That's why you didn't get a check.
No, that's why you had to pay me. No, we still can't hear you. And I didn't turn them off. I wouldn't do that.
All right, let me switch my microphone.
There it is.
There it is.
It's coming back.
All right. Yeah, you did say I had to click. I didn't cache it, so that's probably what you. It's we walked into the year trying to help relieve our shop capacity, just like Dan was saying. We have plenty of work to do and not enough base to get it done. So our goal was to kind of get this mobile service up and running to help relieve that shop capacity. And what we did, we just kind of created another business, really. It's like the customers love that, and we're doing about 80 repair orders a day, and we're still kind of behind in the shop. Fortunate for Bozard, we have our tech development program, so it's not a tech shortage issue because we have about 130 technicians at our store. Just trying to get all this work, shuffled through the shop and through mobile.
So are there when you see this dichotomy of some people are 3 weeks out and others are doing great, are there commonalities that you're seeing between the ones that are 3 weeks out versus the ones that are bringing people in within just a couple days?
Not really, because I think what's happening now is like we're a couple weeks behind, and a lot of times you just want to keep doing the same thing. Your first thing is like, well, let's cut the appointments down. Let's stop bringing in work, and that's a reasonable action. But what happens is you kind of create a ripple effect. You know, it has that 3 week swing basically. So you may cut work now, but you're affecting your 3 weeks past, and then 3 weeks from now you'll probably be begging for work. So it's you have to be careful altering your scheduling and stuff like that. But the good thing about our team is we think outside the box. So we got some news coming that we're going to start another shift and stuff at the dealership, and we're adding more vans constantly. So just trying to get ahead of it without interfering with our customers, because that's the last thing you want to do is sell a car, and it's like they call in your communication center. It's like, hey, great news, we can get you in 5 weeks. So just the challenges of that and just thinking outside the box, just not the normal dealership day-to-day functions that everybody kind of falls into.
Yeah, Dan, did you see any characteristics that seem to apply with the ones that were weeks out versus the ones that weren't?
Kind of opposite of what, Jeremy, I think at Bozard, like you said, they've got a pretty good technician development program. The folks that I've talked to, service directors who have been struggling with getting customers in, it's just a matter of available bays and or available technicians to fix the car. They have more work than they can handle at the moment. And, I think, kind of Jeremy kind of sparked something to me is that you have to kind of think outside the box a little bit, and that's recruiting more technicians, which is easier said than done, but also thinking about double shifts, or maybe you're open later at night, or you're going to open up on a Saturday and a Sunday, just to kind of spread the work out and try and get more customers through it, because we all know if you turn folks away or say I can get you in 3 weeks, they're probably going to to the Pep Boys or the Goodyear or somewhere down the road that they can probably get in sooner. And so, there's that danger of losing a customer forever if you can't kind of meet their demands.
Mhm. Michael, I did see you had a hand raised. If you've got a question, throw it in the Q&A or throw it in the chat and I'll get to it there. So then shifting gears, we'll go over to Jeremy here. So looking back at the first half of the year, if we look towards the back half of the year, which we're already into a little bit, what's going to shake out?
That's a good question. So we're planning for that. We're already planning for next year. Right now we got some pieces in place that we're just trying to get those customers in and still try to create that great experience. Because one thing, when you get far behind, you kind of put a lot of pressure on your technicians and your quality kind of drops and stuff like that. So just thinking of different ways, our plan, everybody knows us for mobile service, and our plans to have all 46 vans up and operational by the end of the year. And that'll slingshot us into the first part of next year. And then we got to figure out, fourth quarter, what does the next year look like? Do we need to get more vans? What do we need to do to create that swing and try to help benefit our customers?
Got it. Dan, from your side, what are you expecting to see? What are you writing right now that says like, oh, here's what we're going to see at the end of the year?
Trying to think what's we've a couple of things that we've got coming in, reporters and freelance writers who just kind of submitted some stuff. There's some AI type stuff, kind of new tools, new technology in the service drive to kind of maybe speed up and smooth out processes and operations. So that's, if I, maybe as soon as I hang up from this, I might edit that story and get it published online the next day or so. And then also, I've got a story just came in too about the complexity of collision repair, and just how, especially with EVs and even cars with just all the sensors, and I mean, and putting them back together the right way, and how much longer it takes for that. This is not, it's not as simple as, putting a new bumper on, or, or putting on a quarter panel. There's all sorts of things that have to be lined up and work right again. And it's more expensive, and it's taking longer for, collision repair shops to make these repairs.
I wonder,
So those are a couple of things that we've got, kind of coming down the line. And as far as, the next, the rest of the year, I think, I heard from some, service directors that, the CDK cyber outage, kind of hampered them, hurt them. And some, figured it out and wrote stuff down on a pencil. And I think I talked to somebody and they said, well, a lot of the technicians didn't know how to do it. So they would just write, oil change, even though if it was something more than an oil change, but they just knew they had to write it down and they could, figure it out later. But a lot of, I knew some, service departments that just completely shut down for, days and just turned people away. And again, I think that's, that you're encouraging customers to go elsewhere and, to never return. And so, I think trying to recapture those folks and getting back into it after the CDK outage, will be something I think people need to, focus on through December.
I tell you what,
Yeah, I think there's this weird, potentially kind of vicious circle forming. If you think about the cost to repair and how that's increasing, and then there's an increasing number of cars being totaled, and then that's in turn going to increase insurance, which is then going to make it hard for people to get to in cars. I wonder if there's an inflection point there anywhere where somebody throws their hands up and says, "All right, we got to go back to simpler construction manufacturing." I don't know. I'm hypothesizing here.
But I think you're right in some ways, and especially in like new vehicle sales, and yes, interest rates are up, and I think the Fed is kind of signaled that they're going to start coming down, as soon as September. But that's going to take a while to get in. But I think a lot of customers are the prices of new cars are just continue to go up. Incentives have started to rise up, but I think kind of like there's that point where people say, I'm just not going to buy a new car anymore. And so, the used car becomes more valuable and getting trade-ins and on the service drive, it is becoming more important too. Is that, if you can find good stuff on the service drive, we have something that'll be in the service parts newsletter this week. We did a cars.com and Dealer Rater did a survey for us, and they said, when you went in for your service appointment, did they ask you, did they discuss trade-in value of your car? And more than half said no.
Hmm.
So, I just think, like to your point, the prices are getting high, and I think people are getting a little bit frustrated with new car prices, but also the prices for simple maintenance too.
So Jeremy, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up, but, and part of the title is mobilizing your service. Give us the background. You mentioned you're there to work on mobile service. What does that mean? How did you build it? What is the team size? Give us the rundown.
So can y'all hear me?
You're a little quiet, so I don't maybe use your outside voice.
All right, is that better?
It's a little better. Yeah, just get really close. Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to get too close. You'll see all my flaws in my skin. Um, but when we started it in December, we had 7 vans and I think 11 technicians and 2 service advisors basically. And what we did in the beginning, of course, we hired some people that really made a difference, but we started thinking about the vision of it and why that's important. Why do our customers want it? So we kind of started with that part of it. Our goal is to kind of turn the auto industry up on its head to do something different. The customers have been screaming it for years, and that's kind of what we've been doing. And we've been able to grow this team. We hired a service manager, Scott, and we have 2 shop foremen that are out on the road, Charles and Kyle, and we got a lead advisor, Jasmine. And once we got that core group developed, we were able to grow it to 24 vans and 30, 41 technicians. In just a couple of months. And, we're going to launch some more vans in the upcoming weeks. And that's pretty much how we got it started. I didn't do anything really.
Shh, don't tell Ed.
Yeah,
You'll get fired.
Well, we
You'll
can
be
edit
back in
this
North
part
Carolina
out.
before you know it.
take that apart then. I don't think Ed's he's not on the chat. But pretty much just getting a core group of guys together and girls and just kind of throwing a vision out and just, asking the question, what do we got to do to get to that point? And right now we have a young staff. There's only a couple of us that's over 30, but most of them are young guys that wants to do something different and unique. And that's what's kind of grown it. And our customers love it. That's the whole thing. Everybody says, is it profitable? What's your cost per van? And I know what that number is, but I don't even give it out no more just because I don't want to account it battle with people. But it's solely customer experience and keeping that customer engaged, and it sells cars. It helps the technicians. I went through the shop the other day and technician was thanking me because he don't have to stop what he's doing to do recalls and trim pieces and special order parts anymore because we're taking care of that side of it. So
Hmm.
it really makes that shop more effective, and your master technicians are thankful for it. I
So
don't know
two
if that answers
questions
your
then.
question.
So what's different about the technician that you're sending out into the field versus the one you keep in the shop there? And then second question, I'll see if I can remember them when you asked me what they both were. Then what services are you mostly performing out in the field and what's off limits?
So as far as the technicians, everybody has a couple of technicians in their shop that's already capable of talking with customers and just able to communicate. Um, a lot of them just never been given the chance to do that because we kind of keep them behind the locked doors and throw a RO in there and shut the door real fast and hopefully they get it done for you.
Let them out for lunch and that's it.
That's right. Don't talk to that guy. So we are looking for that technician that can, take the technical knowledge and talk to a customer in a professional way on that side. So right now we're pushing the boundaries on what we can do. A lot of stuff we don't know what we can't do now, but we mostly light maintenance, recalls, a lot of special order parts, anything that doesn't require a lift, we try to tackle. And we've been burnt before. We kind of took on too much and we fix it. We take it to the dealership and kind of work it in. A lot of check engine lights. And we go in knowing that we may not be able to fix this car, but from the customer experience, if they have an emergency or they feel like it's unsafe to drive, we can send our guy out there to give them that peace of mind that says, hey, you're good to go. We can get you in the shop. Or it's like, no, we can't. We need to get you in the shop. So it helps with that also.
Dan, when you look across the swath of people that you're talking to, are Jeremy and Bozard, are they the exception to the rule right now? Are they different?
Yes. Yeah. I've I've known Ed for a while, and we wrote about mobile service when I think when they had two vans, and we thought this was pretty cool. And Ford was really promoting it, and I think Ford continues to support it, and it has been up till even now is a very strong believer in this and a supporter. So, but still, not every Ford dealership in the country is doing this, not even close. And Bozard is kind of embraced it, and I just think it gives customers a choice. Some people I don't know who they are, retirees love to come in, and they'll wait for their car and they'll sit in the lounge and drink the bad coffee and read the 6-month-old magazines and be quite content. They got nothing else to do. But there are Jeremy said, his staff's mostly younger people have other things to do, and they're more used to these kind of conveniences. And so for them to be able to have someone come to their driveway, someone come to their office parking lot and do the oil change or rotate the tires or whatever it might be, it's I think it's you're giving customers a choice, and that's I think what customers want, and the convenience of it. And if it's not for you, then go in and sit in the waiting room and enjoy your day. But I'm curious, if Jeremy, I know all right, we're at some of the same conferences, and I know you speak at these panels, and I'm sure people come up to you afterwards and they have questions for you. What do you hear from people about why they don't want to do it? If they say, well, I'm really interested, but is it the cost of the startup cost? Is it organizing it all, finding more technicians? What do you hear from people who are interested but don't want to do it?
It's really all of that. A lot of them don't know how to get started. Some of them are, they don't have techs. They can't even get techs in their shop, and they're just thinking, I definitely can't get one that wants to work out in the elements. And what I find out when I start asking them detailed questions, they haven't even tried yet. Because I thought the same thing before I took this job, I was scared to death. I was like, nobody's going to want to do this, and I was like, and I was always this little doubt into my mind. And then when we start looking for it, it's like, okay, there's technicians out there that do not like to work inside. They don't like going to the same bay every single day. They want to talk to people. They want to be out in the open and have a little bit of freedom and not tied down to their bay. So there's people out there, but it's a laundry list of different questions. I see a lot of dealerships, they try to just find an advisor that's already busy. It's like, hey, can you take on mobile service? Let's just put that on your plate. And of course, it's going to fail because it is challenging, but it's a fun kind of challenge. But it's definitely, it's all over the board.
And Matthew, I think what's interesting too is that dealerships, and like I hear when I get together with gatherings as service director, they lament, back in the day they would fix windshields or glass, and they said, "Oh, it's too much of a pain," and now there's outside vendors or companies that now will fix your glass for you when they come to you. And then they don't want to sell tires because they're low. This you got to stack them all and you got to store them, and there's low margin, so who cares? And so now there are tire stores all around who will sell you tires instead of your dealership. And I think there's a space here, this mobile service that I think if dealerships are going to like let this opportunity go by, there are outside companies, and we're writing about one of them right now called new one called Kirby, Curbee, uh, run by a woman who used to do Tesla's mobile service. And so I think, there's going to be outside competition. And if I think dealerships kind of pass on this, it might be another one of those lost opportunities where uh, there's going to be outside companies that will do it and will take this business away from dealerships. And I just don't think dealerships want that.
I appreciate that analogy and that question. That was great. Jeremy, go ahead.
If you were to Google search your area and just put automotive or automobile service, you'll be surprised at how many mobile service people are in your area right now. So it's coming, and the tire industry is getting into it. When I started in the dealership in the 90s, we didn't even have a tire machine in the dealership. You wouldn't even touch a tire. Just like what you were saying, Dan, and I think mobile service is going to be right there with it because the tire guys are seeing there's a ton of opportunity, and we're going to see a lot of tire vans out on the road right now.
So then, Jeremy, why don't you bring us home as we get close here? And for those of you who are listening, feel free to use the Q&A if you have a question. Jeremy, then what's it going to take for mobile service to become more widely adopted?
I think everybody overthinks it. It really doesn't have to be that complicated. Doing it at the scale we are, it can be challenging, but you don't have to do it at this scale. I always tell people, just start off with one van and get it down pat. Just do recalls. You'll keep that technician busy doing recalls. And I know the first thing they're going to say is, they're going to make a profit. I was like, I don't know anything that makes a profit in the first year, but dealership guys are pretty clever on making things profitable. And we do a lot of things at the dealership that's not profitable. And this is more of a customer experience side of it. So on that one, I just recommend start off small and get it down, get your processes down pat, but treat it as its own identity. Don't mix it in with the other stuff. Just treat it just like another department in there.
We hear similar advice for folks who are considering launching a buying center. Like, don't just throw it on a marketing person or a salesperson and say, go launch an independent buying center. You just be real about it. Be dedicated to it. Put a resource on it. Wonderful. All right. So we're approaching here the end of the session. I'm going to echo the sentiment that I do think that this was probably the best looking panelists that happened today. I'm not sure about tomorrow, but today it was pretty, you guys did great. But all facetiousness aside, thank you for being here. And if you've got a question, throw it in. Dan, final thoughts, parting wisdoms.
Well, I think again, finding the customer where they are, where they want to be met, and try and make the transaction as simple and convenient as you can. And like Jeremy said, you may not make a lot of money or may not make any money on certain things, but if you're keeping a customer loyal, if you're doing right by them, they're going to come back and they're going to be a customer for longer, and they might buy that next car from you. So there's you got to have the long-term view of it, kind of that customer retention.
Lifetime value is the acronym, the LTV we like to throw out there. Jeremy, over to you. Final thoughts.
I just encourage you to take a look at it. We're an open book here at Bozard, so y'all can find me on social media. I want to help you. So if you got any different questions or anything, check me out on social media. Send me a message. We're here to help. It's not as complicated as what everybody says it is. So definitely reach out, and we would love to help you, or tour you around the store, whatever we can do to help you.
That's very generous of you. Thank you, Jeremy. All right, so here we go. We're going to wrap it up. As we do always at the end of these things, if you've made it this far and you want your own wobbly bird, where's mine?
Where's my wobbly bird?
Yeah, what the
Do you
hell?
have one,
Wait.
Jeremy?
No.
All right, I'll get you one. Dan, do you have
Can
one?
you put it?
Of course not. No.
Can you put it in a Yeti cooler and ship it to me?
Good thinking, Jeremy. I like your thinking, Jeremy.
Dan wants one too.
Hells yes.
All right. You guys have been fantastic. Thank you for joining us here today. That's us. We will see you next time. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Jeremy. See ya.